Hey, hey, hey. Happy Tuesday. Come on in. Pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch. Welcome aboard. Thank you for joining me tonight. It is Tuesday, March 19th, 2024, and this is live show 1034. Zoinks! If you're not really familiar with this show, let me point out, super casual. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news, and usually we'll pontificate a bit about things going on in our hobby. But of course, we're certainly not involved in any sort of heavy mental lifting by any stretch of the imagination. Just hanging out, having some fun. Now, of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you will not find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Lastly, because this is a live stream, there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. And you must be a subscriber for at least 48 hours before taking part in chat. Yet another way I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you want to say howdy, or maybe you've got a question, a comment, maybe there's a topic you'd like to discuss after the news section, by all means, chime in. I will do my best to respond. First out the gate tonight is the Madman. Yes, our good friend of the show, the Madman, is with us, as is Kabuki Kid, double K's in the house, Matthew Constantine, as well as Kevin King. Flaming Heron, another of our chat moderators, has popped on in, as has Jose Fernandez. Nice, we got a good chat off and rocking. Sweet. I would also not be surprised if our other chat moderator happens to be lurking in the shadows. That's right. I am talking about Sarah D. Nonetheless, not surprised if she is hanging with us tonight, too. So let's jump right on into the news, because hitting stores next month from 25th Century Games is Nova Roma. And here's what I know. In 324 AD, Emperor Constantine, obviously related to Matthew Constantine in chat, selected the ancient city of Byzantium on the shores of the Bosphorus to become the site of his new capital. He named it Nova Roma, which means New Rome. To establish his magnificent new capital, the emperor summoned his most trusted patricians and tasked them with a variety of duties. With the emperor's tireless support, this incredible task was accomplished in just 6 years. In Nova Roma, you are the head of an ancient and noble Roman house. You must deploy your family members and retainers to accomplish a variety of goals: construct buildings, dominate sea routes, secure resources, race in the hippodrome, and hire specialists as your family's own agenda emerges. Will it be enough to please the emperor and emerge the victor amongst your rival houses? Nova Roma is for 1 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, plays in 1 to 2 hours. It's going to carry an MSRP of $60 when it arrives in stores on April 10th. Well. Looks pretty interesting. And I noticed the artwork is from the Miko. So if you are familiar with a lot of Shem Phillips board games over at Garfield Games, then you will be certainly familiar with the Miko's artwork, because the Miko has done artwork for, let's see, Raiders of the North Sea. What is it? Architects of the Western Lands or something along those lines. There's like 4 games for Shem Phillips that the Miko has done artwork for. In fact, he's done artwork for a lot of different games, but that's what most people, I think, recognize his style. And thus, we have it here too. This looks pretty in-depth as well. Just taking a look at the overall board, and it looks like we have various different family members and hirelings, and so on and so forth. Very nice. Very nice. Sarah D is with us, poking her head out from the shadows. And Geraldine and Russell Higgins are also with us in chat. Very nice. Welcome aboard. Let's move on to our next news piece. We're going to dive on into a fantastic money-saving deal. That's right. Cubicle 7 Games has teamed with Humble Bundle for an amazing Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay featured bundle, and I've got the deets on the deal. Tabletop Role-Playing's legendary must-play adventure campaign. Bring the stirring legacy and grim, never-ending conflict of the old world to your table with this jam-packed library, and treat your players to the director's cut of The Enemy Within, the revered 5-part campaign that inspired a generation of gamers. On top of the core rulebook and starter set, you'll get everything you need to get into the beloved Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay system. Dive into this storied setting with books like Middenheim, City of the White Wolf, and Altdorf, Crown of the Empire, along with a host of source books and adventures to enable countless epic sessions for your group. Pay what you want for this amazing bundle of 18 books and help support Children's Health Ireland with your purchase. You can score the bundle of 18 PDFs for a minimum donation of $25. Once again, your donation will benefit Children's Health Ireland, and these savings will run through April 3rd. Should mention, in those 18 PDFs are all 5 chapters of The Enemy Within, as well as all 5 companions to each chapter for The Enemy Within. As far as I could tell, I did not peek at each and every entry in this, but I can tell you, if you donate $1, you will get the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay starter set, as well as Enemy in Shadows, which is the first chapter of The Enemy Within. And I think there's also, I think it might be the Altdorf book that you also get. So, by all means, this is one of those bundles. We talk about this all the time. If you're kind of kicking around, thinking about kicking the tires on a game system, we talk about this all the time with Pathfinder. I always say, keep your eyes peeled on Humble Bundle. It's usually 3-4 times a year that Paizo will run a Pathfinder. Sometimes it's a Starfinder. Sometimes it's both. Bundle, which is just an amazing savings. Well, here you're seeing Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, everything you need to get into literally years of gaming for $25. Pretty amazing, pretty phenomenal. Once again, if you have any interest whatsoever in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and I've got plenty of reviews of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay releases, check them out because I really enjoy it. It is a blast. Travis Williams is with us, also pointing out He was the winner of a contest last week, thanking me once again for that PDF. You're very welcome. Thanks for watching. Matthew Constantine says, one day they'll play the enemy within. One day. Flaming Heron says, starter set, enemy in shadows, and the guilty party for $1. I'd buy that for $1. On to our next news piece. Exalted Funeral and Necrotic Gnome have teamed to release the Old School Essentials Adventure Anthology Volume 2. Say that 5 times fast. Here's the skinny. 4 short adventures for Old School Essentials, each crafted by a leading old school writer. Player characters search for gold and glory, and it'll take them from musty barrow mounds and gnomish shrines to sinister cathedrals and accursed stepwells. First off, we've got Barrow of the Bone Blackguards for levels 1 through 3. Unearth the necromantic secrets of the freshly opened Barrow Mound. Shrine of the Oozing Serpent, also for levels 1 through 3. Delve into the slime-filled lair of a grease dragon and her amphibious minions. Then we've got Cathedral of the Crimson Death for levels 4 through 6. Defeat an evil death cult and their plans for necrotic world domination. And then lastly, we have the Ravener's Gat. Explore the accursed ruins of an ancient Rakshas's temple. The 64-page A5-sized softcover carries an MSRP of $20. It can be purchased over at Exalted Funeral, while the PDF alone can be had over at Drive-Thru RPG for $10. So another pretty solid-looking anthology of adventures for Old School Essentials. So let's say 64 pages, 4 adventures. Well, you're coming in at least, well, I shouldn't say at least. Some might be a little longer than others. Probably about 15 pages, 15, 16 pages for each adventure on average. Pretty nice. Pretty nice. Matthew Constantine had mentioned regarding the Wifrip bundle, saying there's so many of these PDF bundles, they could fill half a dozen hard drives. Well, all depends on the size of the hard drives. So very nice. This looks pretty cool. Now, this is volume 2 because volume 1 also came out just last week. So you've got 2 new volumes, 8 new Old School Essential adventures, and 2 soft covers or 2 PDFs for you to bring to the table and play some Old School Essentials with your group. All right, on to a big news piece because Free League Publishing earlier today launched a Kickstarter for Coriolis, the Great Dark. And here's the scoop. The portals are dead. Ship City is dying, but there is still hope. You're explorers of a dangerous world. You'll do the work few others will. The enigmatic ruins of the Great Dark is shunned by most, but not by you. You seek them out to delve into their shadowy depths and uncover their secrets. The blight, the cataclysmic scourge that spreads from the ruins, makes others wary. But for you, it's a beacon. Where there is blight, there are artifacts to find and mysteries to solve. Ship City is dying, but you and your fellow explorers can find a way to a better future. So don your Delver suit, step aboard a mighty great ship, and venture down the slipstream towards the unknown. Your creed? Explore or perish. Inspired by 19th century expeditions, deep-sea diving, and pulp archaeology, Coriolis the Great Dark is a role-playing game about exploration and intrigue where you'll join dangerous expeditions, navigate the Byzantine schemes of Ship City, and hunt for the keys that unlock the mystery of this lost horizon. You can reserve a copy of Coriolis the Great Dark in hardcover with PDF for a pledge of approximately $43, or you can just reserve a copy of the PDF alone for a pledge of approximately $24 through April 11th. Expected delivery is March 2025. Yes. Nice. So what I understand is Coriolis the Great Dark is essentially a second edition of Coriolis the Third Horizon. This is going to replace Coriolis the Third Horizon. So I believe our timeline is going to advance from Coriolis for the Great Dark. So we are going to move from the period that was the Third Horizon to this. So this is not a second game in the series. This is a replacement for Coriolis. And as far as I saw from my friends over at Free League Publishing, they will no longer be supporting Coriolis the Third Horizon. They will no longer print the books. So those will no longer be in print. They will not be reprinting them. This is the new Coriolis game. Kind of cool. I have to say, looking at the example pages that we've got, even though this is supposed to be kind of a darker setting than Third Horizon, the book is far lighter. So it doesn't look dark and gloomy. If I remember correctly, I think the Coriolis core book is like a white on black, which is a little tough on your eyes. But I could have swore I thought it was a dark background. It might not be black. It might be a dark gray as far as the background that the text is on. So like I said, this looks a bit lighter. Tessie Trekkie says they've already backed this with everything. By the way, hello, Tessie Trekkie. Good to see you. Said they think it's about 300 years down the line from Coriolis the Third Horizon. Several generations. Cool. W. Forge is with us, I noticed. And Kevin King asks if anyone happens to know if the Goodman Games 3E monster guides are any good because they are up in a bundle of holding. Flaming Heron says it is white on black. There you go. Thank you, Flaming Heron. Matthew Constantine says it does have a more adventurous style as opposed to the sort of Gothic Arabian Nights of the original. I don't know if they are going to kind of abandon that sort of Middle Eastern flavor to the trappings of the setting, like clothing and stuff like that. It almost looks like they're going with, as odd as this sounds, because I haven't seen that many images from this, almost seems like they're going with like a Russian steppe sort of costuming. We shall see. We shall see. On to my final news piece. Seattle Hill Games has released the Osric Players Book. And here's the dope. The Osric Players Guide by Seattle Hill Games has most of the core rules to play the advanced first edition of the world's most popular role-playing game. It is an easy introduction on how to play the game as Gary played it. Once you've mastered the rules herein, you should be able to easily assimilate the full rules from the golden age of fantasy adventure gaming. Please note, this is not a full rule set. You also need a manual of monsters and a game master's guide, which are available online. Alternatively, you can also pick up the full Osric rule book, which is available from other publishers. The 224-page hardcover is available by way of Drive-Thru RPG for $19.99, or you can grab the PDF alone, absolutely free, over at Drive-Thru RPG. Very nice, very nice. I like Osric. I like Osric quite a bit. And if there are any folks out there who are trying to create a retro clone of AD&D to make it far easier for newcomers to wrap their heads around, by all means, I am always happy to provide them with a bit of promotion, news pieces on the show, news pieces on the website. And the artwork looks pretty good. This artwork looks pretty nice. And as I mentioned, this is absolutely free. So you can pick this up. This is not the full rules. From what I understand, this is about 80% of what you would find in the Osric core book. So, of course, there are some game master facing items that are not in this. Although I do believe the to hit matrices and things like that are in this book. They are. You don't have to go and pick up like a game master's sort of volume just in order to run this. Chris Lundgren is with us in chat, as is Matthew Blackwell. And I see Sly Blue Demon has snuck on into chat. Welcome to you all. So very nice to see everybody. Thank you kindly. Matthew Blackwell says they have the rulebook and monster manual as a PDF, but they'd love to have it in print. Kind of curious, are we talking about a monster book from, wasn't it Matt Finch who did Osric, who now they're over at, isn't it Mythmire Games? Isn't that where Swords and Witches, there you go. Just had to rewind for a second. That was me on hitting the rewind button. Isn't it Matthew Finch? Isn't he the lead writer on Osric? Because I think he's over at Mythmere Games now. I don't know if that's necessarily his company or not. Yes, there you go. Kevin R. Smith is with us. Good to see you, Kevin. Says, yeah, they published Swords and Wizardry. Right. That was where the new edition came out. So I don't know if that's who's handling Osric now or what. Matthew Blackwell says it's called Monsters of Myth. It's the Osric Monster Manual. And I believe he had also mentioned that it is free in PDF. Very nice. But as you can see, this has some pretty cool images in that. This is pretty nicely done. A lot better than what we're used to seeing with some retro clone releases out there. Very nice. Very, very nice. All righty. That is it for the news tonight. Bahorn is popping on into chat. Good to see you. Of course, I was just talking about Drive-Thru RPG. And of course, you probably already know this, but in case you don't, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit, say, Drive-Thru RPG or Storyteller's Vault, Dungeon Masters Guild, Wargame Vault, what have you, by all means, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters go a long way to helping keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, should mention, sometimes people wonder, well, I was planning on going to Storyteller's Vault, and I head over to thegaminggang.com, and I don't see a banner ad for Storyteller's Vault. It's Drive-Thru RPG. Just click on it. Click on it. When you get to the website, Just take a look at the lower left. You'll see a list of all the One Bookshelf sites. Click on Storyteller's Vault, and it'll still keep the affiliate code. So, not a problem. You do not have to refresh the page to try to find, because I rotate ads randomly, trying to find one that might have, Storyteller's Vault or Dungeon Masters Guild. Just click on whatever banner ad is there that shows the One Bookshelf site. It's easy peasy. The Madman says I should be getting a few nickels from them from last week and today. Very cool. Nice. Very nice. Of course, if you like this video, by all means, if you like this video, if you dig the channel, if you find thegaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always stop on by paypal.me/thegaminggang to make a small donation. And of course, got to say, there are a lot of folks out there who pop on over to thegaminggang.com to use our banner ads and or visit paypal.me/thegaminggang to make a donation. Hell, they're out there buying me 2-liter bottles of soda. Oh, so refreshing. And there are a few of you out there who make not small donations, such as Agile Monk, The Madman, and Joshua Evans. Evans? Why did I say that? Edwards. Joshua Evans? Who the hell's Joshua Evans? Joshua Edwards, who donated a stunning $250. It was like, zoinks! And this was after a few months ago, he had donated like $200. It's pretty wild. So big thanks to Joshua. Big thanks to all of you out there for helping support the channel in whatever ways you possibly can. Sly Blue Demon's asking, what is my go-to soda? Normally, my go-to soda is Diet Right, because there's no sugar, no caffeine, and no sodium. But it's super tough to find. It's really difficult to find. And I don't like paying more than $2 these days for a 2-liter bottle of soda. And it's crazy. We're starting to see just a 2-liter of Pepsi. $2.99 is the regular price. And it's like, you gotta be nuts. Gots to be nuts. But even at the stores that carry Diet Right, I think word's gotten out to more health-conscious people, I guess, and they gobble up the Diet Right. So I used to be one of these people who, if I was in a store and I saw, there was one left after I made my purchase, I'd be like, oh, yeah, well, or let's say there's 6 bottles of the soda I want. I'd only get 3 because I figured, well, I'll leave 3 for, someone else. I don't want to be the one who takes the last of it. And I've seen people walking around with their shopping carts loaded down with different things. And I'm like, you know what? Forget it. I'll buy all 6. No, I'm like, I'll buy all 6. It's not my problem. W4 says they loved RC, but they find it hard to find in New York City. New York City? It's weird. Here in the Chicagoland area, Royal Crown is everywhere. Royal Crown is the sort of soda that you'd walk into a gas station and they've got it there. They've got them at Walmart. They've got it at the grocery stores. Pretty much all over the place. Matthew Constantine says they normally don't drink soda, but they love Moxie. Hard to find outside of Maine. I've heard of it. I've never had it. Sly Blue Demon says they're a root beer guy. W. Forge is a sucker for Pepsi. My mom's a Pepsi fan. If I had my choice between Diet Coke, Diet Pepsi, I'll take Diet Pepsi. Because it's kind of, it's what I grew up on. So Tessie Tricky says, Jeff, as long as you don't do that with toilet paper. No, wouldn't be doing that. Would not be doing that. Kabuki Kid says they like root beer, A&W usually. Kevin R. Smith says RC is pretty common there in Ohio. Definitely was when he was a kid. It was his mom's favorite cola. Yeah, RC is okay. RC's fine. Sodas I never liked when I was a kid, and most of them aren't even made anymore. Tab was awful. The Diet Tab had like a metallic taste to it, at least in my memory. Funny enough, you'll see Shasta from time to time, but Shasta's kind of like dollar store soda. So the Madman says Dr. Pepper for him, but haven't had more than 2 cans in the past 3 years. Dr. Pepper's really changed too, in my opinion. When I was younger, and I was never a huge Dr. Pepper fan, but I would drink a Dr. Pepper. I remember Dr. Pepper being a lot more zippy, kind of zippy in taste. Had a little more spice to it. It was kind of a spicy soda. Not anymore. So Miriam Sylvie Lordick is with us. Looks like they are catching the stream live for maybe the first time jumping into chat. So welcome aboard. Matthew Blackwell says, I used to love Surge. That stuff was amazing. Can't get it anymore. Carolyn says Tab was abysmal. I don't think I said hello to Carolyn. I saw they were in chat. If I did not say hello to you, I'm saying hi to you now. Matthew Constantine says Coke tastes better in Europe and Mexico. Well, because it's still made with cocaine down in Mexico. I think some of the sodas that are manufactured in other countries that are available here in the U.S., I would not be shocked if they taste better in other countries, especially if they're, obviously if they're bottled there, because they probably don't skimp on ingredient quality. That's for sure. Kevin R. Smith says Tab was still around at least in the mid-2010s. It definitely tasted horrible in the 70s. Yeah, I remember tasting it one time, probably late 70s, mid-70s, because I was not in high school yet. And my mom was at a friend's house, and she offered me a soda, and it was like, oh, yeah, okay. And it was Tab, and it was awful. Tasted like they called it Tab because the metal tab from machinery had fallen in and dissolved in it. So Flaming Aaron says they put extra caffeine in Mexican Coke. Kevin R. Smith says Mexican Coke is supposedly made with real sugar. That I have heard as well. It's not corn syrup, which that stuff's got to be bad for us, especially in the amounts that we ingest through no fault of our own. It's just in everything because, God forbid, the farmers couldn't make their money. I shouldn't say farmers. I should say corporate farms. All righty. So that is the news for tonight. The dispatch will continue, but first, I think it might be time for a brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
What? That's not sanitary.
I really love my Wilkins coffee.
You ought to see a psychiatrist.
I did. That's who told me about Wilkins. I used to love my raincoat.
Real buttered popcorn with the world's best pure dairy butter from Odell's.
Oh, I'm sure Matthew Constantine really wants popcorn now. After that last commercial there. Oh, yeah. Dengar the Mighty is with us, as is Nathaniel Cares. So welcome to you both. Dengar the Mighty asks how I'm doing. I am doing pretty well. All in all, great scheme of things. Not doing too shabby. Of course, I spent the last 3 days, well, 3.5 days really, up in the Lake Geneva, Wisconsin area with my best friend, Elliot Miller. We popped up to Founders and Legends, and we had some fun up there. Strangely enough, I always forget to take pictures. But this was really small. So there were like 400 attendees total as far as like passes that were sold. So even like the ballrooms and that, you would look in and there would maybe be 2 occupied tables. It was not crowded at all. And Ellie and I, once again, really didn't get an opportunity to play much. Mainly because by the time we had gotten the passes, everything was booked up. So we did book, it was like afternoon on Saturday because I ran Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. We did not go yesterday because Elliot had rented a car and needed to get the rental car back. So we figured, well, if we're not even going to go over to the resort where it was being held, which was like 15 minutes away from where we were staying, figured, well, why don't we just, pack up and leave when we're good to go in the morning. So anyway, we went up there and we had signed up for the Fight in the Skies. So the World War I aerial combat. And we got there about 10 minutes before it was supposed to start. And it was around a fairly large table, and there wasn't a single seat to be found. So we were just standing there. We hadn't told anybody yet that, we were there for the game. And Elliot's like, you know what, man, I don't know. I'm like, yeah, I think I'm with you on that. Because it was like, I'm not going to spend 4 hours standing. So that was the game that we had scheduled for Saturday. We only had one on Saturday, one on Sunday, and then we had scheduled one for Monday, but then we didn't go. So we just busted out some games and we're playing our own stuff, which some of it Elliot had brought, which was new to me. Some stuff was I brought and was new to Elliot's. That was cool. So we got to do that. Then on Sunday, we played a session of Shadow Dark. We had a good time with that. So Elliot wasn't familiar with Shadow Dark. He liked it quite a bit. And the gentleman who was running the session was named Drew, and he had all this stuff. I mean, he had gone all out. So he was actually running an adventure that was from I think it's the second issue of Cursed Scroll for Shadow Dark. And it's just kind of a 2-pager. It's not a lot to it. So anyway, so he was running that, but he had gone and, he had printed out the maps so that they were, the right scale for minis and stuff. And he had gone and printed out little, images of the creatures that we were fighting and stuff. I thought it was kind of cool. I thought it was nice that he had gone through all that effort just for a con game. So he is also working on some Shadow Dark content that they want to bring to market. So I made sure I gave him a card and I told him, hey, check us out. So that was the gaming we did as far as Founders and Legends. That was it. I got a chance to chat with Luke Gygax to thank him for the passes, obviously. I talked to him for a few moments. I talked to Steven Chenault from Troll Lord Games. Talked to him for a little bit. Got to say hello to Mike Carr. Well, okay, I'll take that back. We didn't get an opportunity to say hello. We got to see Mike Carr, Harold Johnson, and Tom Wham. Although I've heard some people say it's actually pronounced Wham. Tom Wham. I don't know. I've always heard it Wham. And the reality is Mike Merles was kind of mediating a little bit the seminar. And I got to be honest, I don't think he introduced Tom Wham. It was kind of wild. But that was pretty interesting. So we got a little bit of background of some of the early days of TSR. So that was kind of fun. Dylan Hyatt is with us in chat. Welcome aboard. I thought I saw somebody else sneak in. Maybe I'm imagining things. If I have not said hello to you in chat, I apologize. I'll tell you that right now. Dylan asked, how was my experience of Shadow Dark? It was fine. It was okay. There you go. Carolyn says, Tom Wham himself says it rhymes with bomb. So there you go, Tom Wham. And it was very interesting. It was very cool. So enjoyed that. It was about an hour. So Fleming says, I think you got us all, Jeff. Yeah, it's just a thing. It's just a thing. I tried, say hello to everybody. Just the proper thing to do. I enjoyed playing it. You got to remember, I have reviewed Shadow Dark. My review of the Cursed Scrolls issues is coming. Should be this week. Maybe the weekend, actually. I enjoyed it. I probably would have run it a little bit different than the gentleman we had running it for the session did. I am far, far more theater of the mind. So we had miniatures and, we'd be moving with the always on initiative. And I would have probably had less of that, more just theater of the mind. And I don't really use minis or markers or anything like that when I run a role-playing game. I don't have anything against it, really. It's just, to me, I think it takes a little focus away from the actual goings-on of the game when you have these visual representations and stuff like that. Now, I know there are people out there who have a hard time, focusing on a role-playing game unless there are miniatures and things for them to look at. So, to each their own, right? But I think I would have moved the proceedings along a little quicker without all right, you're moving. And, there aren't going to be any encounters or things like that. But no, I mean, other than that, he did a really good job. Very nice job. We had a good amount of fun. His wife and his son were part of the group, as were a couple of other gentlemen who were hanging out with us. So it was nice. It was nice. Dylan Hyatt points out Shadow Dark is made for Theater of the Mind. Yes. I know. I understand that. That's why we have range bands. So we have close, near, far. If it was designed for miniatures, we would not have that. We would have, okay, this many feet, that many feet. Now, granted, movement is broken down into feet, like 30 feet move for a specific character or whatever else. But it's mainly just for purposes of changing your range band. All right. So Flaming Heron says they use minis purely when it makes sense for positioning or if the game requires it, and that's mostly for combat, of course. Dengar the Mighty says they're a Theater of the Mind guy too. That was the way we always played growing up, playing tabletop role-playing games. Kathy Evans says they use minis for big battles. Yeah, sure. I mean, I can see that. Like I said, I don't have anything against people using miniatures at the table. It's just not something that I do. I prefer to try to do my best to immerse my players in the setting, in the goings-on, in their environment. And the reality, too, is that a lot of times in like a fantasy role-playing game, or maybe even like Call of Cthulhu or something like that, if you don't have the miniature for that creature or monster or NPC or whatever, then it's kind of like, nah. W4 asked if they missed a quick conversation about Jim Ward. No, I have not gotten to that yet. I am going to mention it, though. No doubt about that. Matthew also points out they just voted in the round. Yes. So we will save that till last. Marion points out that the character is always cooler in your mind as opposed with a miniature. Carolyn says back in the day, they were all Theater of the Mind. 3E corrupted them, and these days they prefer the visual representation. I love miniatures games. I absolutely love minis. I don't necessarily use them in role-playing games, that's all. Anywho, so yes, we got the bad news yesterday that James M. Ward passed away. And if you are not familiar with Jim Ward, he was really, really critical to the early years of TSR. So I know there's debate if Metamorphosis Alpha is the first science fiction role-playing game. I've always thought it was. I've heard people say, no, it's not. But I had always heard that it was. So Jim Ward had created that. They did quite a bit for TSR, some D&D stuff, Gamma World. They were pretty crucial to the development of Gamma World. And they, as far as I understand, Jim was still out there at the age of 72, I believe, still running games. I know he was, at least as far as I recall, he was at GaryCon last year running stuff. And I had also heard that it was an amazing privilege to have been killed off by Jim Ward in a convention game. That I guess what he had was when you would be getting your character, you could like roll. I think you would roll for like some random item that was part of your inventory. Or you could ask him for an item, and it could be almost anything. But usually if it was going to be something that was going to skew things heavily to the players, that there was always some sort of detrimental aspect to it. That he always tried to make sure that it was always a dual-sided sword. So, but yes, unfortunately, he passed away yesterday. And I think, it wasn't too long ago that he came up in conversation on an episode of The Dispatch. We were just talking about role-playing games. And see, now it's funny. I can't recall some of the games that were in our March Madness going on. For some reason, I thought I had Metamorphosis Alpha in there. It didn't survive. It did not become a Cinderella team. But so, happy trails to James M. Ward. He will be missed. I'm sure he'll be gaming with Dave Arneson and Gary Gygax in the great beyond. Anyway, last thing I was going to mention is that we are now into the Elite Eight for the March Tabletop Role-Playing Game Madness event with the Gaming Gang. And it is all the heavy hitters. The heavy hitters are out in force. And it's funny because the way things have kind of worked out, with these brackets, we have publishers' own releases going up against each other to knock them out. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So we've got Call of Cthulhu going up against Pendragon. We have, I think it's Symborum going up against the One Ring. But yes, the Cinderella story of Tales from the Loop has ended. They did not advance. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do here is I will take a peek. I'll tell you what we've got left here as far as our brackets. I just have to jump on into these links. Okay. So in the Arneson division, Symborum knocked off Delta Green. We had another really close one vote victory. That was not this. This was not very close. Symborum knocked off Delta Green. Then we had Dragonbane going. Oh, that was it. The Dragonbane was going up against the One Ring. So now it's Symborum versus Dragonbane, both from Free League Publishing. And then we had Pendragon knocked off Dune, the role-playing game, and Call of Cthulhu knocked off RuneQuest. And it will be Pendragon versus Call of Cthulhu. Just taking a peek here to see. I think the one vote victory was in an, oh no, I take that back. So Dragonbane won by one vote over the One Ring, second edition. So 40 votes to 39 votes. Then we have got in the Gygax division, Alien the role-playing game pretty much gobbled up Tales from the Loop. Tales from the Loop had no chance there. We also had Blade Runner go up against Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay emerged without much trouble. Then we got Forbidden Lands, went up against Dungeon Crawl Classics. This was another one-vote victory. So Forbidden Lands and emerged victorious. And then we had Traveler and Basic Fantasy. And Traveler dispatched Basic Fantasy with relative ease. So we have Traveler versus Forbidden Lands, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay versus Alien, the role-playing game, Call of Cthulhu versus Pendragon, and then Dragonbane versus, I closed the browser window, so I don't exactly recall. So as I was looking at that, I could not see the chat. So let me see. Yeah, right. So Dragonbane beat the One Ring to face Symborum. Yeah, it was funny because I had these brackets put together just at random. I had absolutely nothing to do with it. Nothing at all. And it just happened to break down that there was a lot of freely publishing in one bracket. The Chaosium releases were in one bracket. So or I should say one division. Stacking Limit is with us in chat. I believe this might be a first-time visit for Stacking Limit. Kevin R. Smith says they have to say they wouldn't be disappointed with any of the remaining games winning. Yeah, me too. It was kind of funny because I had mentioned to Elliot over the weekend, I said, I have absolutely no problem with any of the games that are in the running, but the reality was I was hoping, which I figured it wouldn't, but I was hoping Tales from the Loop would not emerge victorious. Not necessarily, I don't have a problem with the game. I like the game. I like the setting. I just don't know if I'd be able to get players to play it. Because I know Elliot's got no real interest in a kids on bikes sort of role-playing game. He doesn't want to play a 12-year-old kid. Bahorn says they were hoping some of the without number games would have gotten further. I was surprised. I will be the first to point out. I was surprised. Chris Lundgren says they're going to take their Basic Fantasy and go home. Yeah, it was a one-vote loss, but a loss nonetheless. Looks like we've got about 20 votes in the newest round. So by all means, do not forget, get your votes in. Vote for every matchup. Please, even if you don't care about either one of the entries, vote for one of them. Because as we've seen, we have already had 3 one-vote victories take place in the contest to this point. And if people were like, I don't care about that, and they didn't vote, we would probably get stuck with some ties. So we don't want that. Chris Lundgren says they're going to hope and vote for Pendragon. It's not good. Probably doesn't have very good chances. No, probably not. I'm getting the feeling, this is just, I had mentioned this to Elliot too before we even saw the results of this past round. I'm getting the feeling it's going to come down to Call of Cthulhu, Traveler, Dragonbane, And let me float out. What do I think the fourth one's? Oh, Wifrip. Warhammer Fantasy. Did I say Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay? No, I didn't. I didn't say that. So I think those are the four that I think really, really have the biggest chances of being the end-all winner overall. The Madman says, Elliot's reasoning for not playing Kids on Bikes is the same reason his Savage Worlds group won't play Pine Box Middle School. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I understand it. I understand it. I think Tales from the Loop could be a little bit easier because the Tales from the Loop adventures all tend to be like campaigns that have come out. All are relatively short, just a few sessions long. So you can kind of pitch it that way where it's not going to be some real long, drawn out campaign. If you get together like every week, probably be a month of playing. Marion asks, do we need to have played the game in the past? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And the way that these ended up in the contest is I'm going to run the winner. I'm going to run the winner in April. And I figured I would put it in your hands to decide what game I'm going to run. Plus, it's kind of fun. People are enjoying the contest, voting for, their favorites and things like that. But no, you don't have to run it at all or have played in a game of it at all. It could be something you would be interested in actually checking out yourself. So there is that also. But one of the criteria was that it was a game that I either had to already own or that I could easily get a copy of in, say, PDF. So if it wasn't something I owned, maybe it's something from a publisher that I cover a lot. I just don't happen to have a copy of that game that I could easily get a PDF of. Flaming Heron says, people love polls. Yes. Kevin R. Smith asks if there's going to be a special video with a session report. There might. I might. Now, keep in mind, this is not going to be run like April 1st. I would have to prep stuff and I have to get a group together to play it. So there's that too. But the last thing I was going to mention is when we were playing Shadow Dark, we actually role-played a little, at least Elliot and I did. And it was kind of funny because Elliot had a warrior who was strength 18. I mean, he was just a monster. And everything else he had was a -1 modifier. So he was kind of playing him kind of as a doofus. So I thought that was kind of funny. And then I had a ranger who actually had positive modifiers in just about everything except for Constitution and Charisma. And they were an elf and they were a -1 modifier in Charisma. So I was playing it out that whenever he would investigate something, he would come back and be explaining it like Cliff Clavin would in Cheers. So there was this moss around a doorway that we were going through a stone entrance. And I'm giving all these facts and details about the moss. I mean, I wasn't actually doing it. I said that's what the character was doing. So he was one of these individuals who was actually, a good guy, but irritating as hell. So yeah, we had a good time. W4 says, sounds like Master Blaster. Funny enough, there was the guy who was sitting next to me. I'm sorry, I don't recall his name. He was kind of into the game too. trying to, make it more than just sitting around a table go, oh, okay, I move, I swing, I move, I do this. And he was a seer, which is a new class that's in one of the issues of Cursed Scroll. And he had this rage ability that he could make another player rage. So he kept doing that to Elliot's character. And you would rage for, I think, like 1d4 rounds. And you were essentially doubling your damage, all damage. So it was pretty cool. And the big bad we ended up taking on, and we were 3rd level, was the Shadow Dark equivalent of a Mind Flayer. But it wasn't that, it wasn't like that, powerful. Although it did take a lot of hit points. It soaked up a lot of damage before we killed it. But it was kind of funny because it used like its mental power, one of its abilities, no doubt. And everybody but one player saved against it. So I was like, yeah, okay. It was some sort of like psychic blast sort of thing. And we took him down. So it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. Like I said, we had a good time. And we were trying to make it, a little more like how it would maybe be around your table at home, as opposed to, playing it at a convention with complete strangers. Coco B is with us saying that Cliff Clavin is a postal worker in Boston. From the TV show Cheers. Yes, and he had something to say about everything. He had all these like facts, not always correct, but he always knew something about whatever they were talking about. All righty. So that was our trip to Lake Geneva. And what we basically did, like I said, it was pretty quiet, but it was just nice to kind of get away for a few days and just, kick back, go out, eat, have a few adult beverages, have a few more adult beverages, back in the room, play some games, just bum around. It was pretty cool. It was pretty nice. So Chris Lundgren asks other game masters and dungeon masters in chat, have you had to deal with a total party kill in modern times? I have. I wouldn't say it's been very recent, but yeah, running Call of Cthulhu, you will probably encounter, if you're not cutting your players some slack, you will probably encounter more total party kills on average than other role-playing game systems. But, by that point, my players knew Call of Cthulhu. They understood the setting. They knew the stakes. They messed up. And, they weren't mad. They weren't mad about the TPK because they felt that they had earned it. So it's like, okay. Matthew Constantine says, no, they have not had one yet. But in some games like Dungeon Crawl Classics, it's just part of the game. Yep, I would agree with you on that. Matthew also points out, if you're doing a story-type game, it can be awkward. In Call of Cthulhu, they like having a social group they belong to, so new characters come from there. Yes, it's usually a good idea to have some sort of, it doesn't even have to be created mechanically in the game. It could be just something that's been referenced by one of the players as far as like their characters go. That, if, say one of the characters is a journalist and they work for the Boston Globe, and they get killed. Well, now you're probably going to have another reporter from the Boston Globe that maybe was their friend trying to look into, well, how come Bob Jones disappeared? What happened? Sly Blue Demon says, never have had a TPK. Chris Lundgren says, gave a lot of stacks in their zombie game. They just took too long getting to the exits. They knew the risks. They spent too much time exploring hotel rooms. Well, a lot of times, depending on the sort of game that you're running, your players have to expect the possibility that everyone is going to die. And with a zombie game, oh yeah. A zombie game, they got to figure that the odds of them, all their player characters, buying the farm is high because it's a zombie game. There's a reason why it's a zombie apocalypse, right? It's a zombie apocalypse because most people, the vast majority of people, were unable to avoid being infected for whatever reason and by whatever means. That's why it's a zombie apocalypse. If everyone who thinks of like a zombie outbreak and they think, oh yeah, well, you know, I'd survive. I'd simply do this, this, and this. No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. Nearly all of us, myself included, if there was a zombie apocalypse, are not going to survive to see like the first week. That's why it's an apocalypse. Flaming Heron says, only reason they generally have a TPK is because all the players want to go down in a blaze of glory and we start a new party. Yeah. Madman says they've been DM GM since 82. They've had one total party kill just 2 years ago. Horrible die rolls by the players. I tried to prevent it, but the cannibals were hungry. You know, funny enough, I have never really gone out of my way to prevent the players from having a TPK. I don't tend to fudge rolls a lot. A little bit I will, especially if the players are rolling bad dice. And it does happen. Elliot and I were talking about this over the weekend. It is quite easy to get into a streak of just awful die rolls. And there's really not anything you can do about it. Just like when we were playing Shadow Dark, I actually, for the most part, was rolling really good dice. I was surprised. I had a few misses. I had a few failures, but I was probably successful on at least 75% of my rolls. Kevin King says they've had TPKs in 1E, 2E, 3E, Call of Cthulhu, Dungeon Crawl Classics, probably forgetting some. Don't think they've ever had any in 5E. It is a challenge, I think, to dole out a total party kill in 5E. Not impossible, because any game where you have one player who is pretty much the arbiter of everything going on, if that game master wants your party dead, your party's going to end up taking a dirt nap. No getting around it. Kevin R. Smith says they had a near TPK at their last con game. It was Dark Places and Demigorgons for Old School Essentials. And the PC's boat got damaged by a gang's speedboat. They rolled max damage and they all failed their saves. They were all low-level characters with 1d8 hit points, if they were lucky. Nathaniel Kerr says they're running the Red Hand of Doom. They've had some close calls, but no total party kills yet, I guess. Thankfully, they said. So, Chris Lundgren says they agree with me. They never fudge. Now, I didn't say I never fudge. I didn't say that. So as far as the game Chris is talking about, I mean, if it's zombies and it's a D&D game or it's a fantasy role-playing game, yeah, that's a bit different. Now, if you're playing like a modern style role-playing game and it's a zombie apocalypse sort of game, yeah, I would expect pretty easy to have total party kills. Carolyn says they've had it happen twice, both the dragons, and in all fairness, one of those dragons was Tiamat herself. There you go. Flaming Heron says, sometimes you fudge, but generally never. I know there's kind of a camp for each. There's folks out there who say never, never fudge a die roll. Never. But the dice are the arbiters of the game. Whatever the dice say goes. And I can understand that. I see where that comes from. In my opinion, if you are going to play like that, then you should be rolling your dice in front of the players. So if you are running a game where the dice are the arbiters of the game, those dice rolls should be made in front of the players, which takes away a little bit of the mystery of being a game master and rolling dice and not revealing what those die rolls are or what those die rolls represent. And if you are in the camp like I am, where I'm there to make sure everybody's having a good time. I want to make sure everybody stays involved. And if that means I've got to fudge a die roll here and there for something that isn't crucial to the game, yeah, then I'm going to fudge the die roll because I want everybody to have a good time, enjoy a story. And yes, I know people have told me that it's like, well, it's not a story. You're not there to, facilitate a story. You're there to just, tell them what they see and be impartial. And I'm like, yeah, I can be impartial and make sure that they're enjoying a story unfolding. But I mean, that's just how I enjoy role-playing games. There are a lot of different ways for people who enjoy their role-playing games. And there is no wrong fun about it. Dylan Hyatt says, also years back played Space Master. Pilot fumbled the hyperspace jump and our spaceship dumped its antimatter fuel. Total party kill. Chris Lundgren points out that their players were in an 11-story hotel and needed to get to the lobby. Garland says, I run the game, not the dice. They are a big part of it, but I am not beholden to them. I will fudge it if it seems in the best interest of the game, but do so rarely. I'm with you. That's pretty much my approach as well. W4 says they might fudge a damage roll, but not usually a skill roll or attribute roll. Okay, cool. Matthew Constantine says they like playing Everway, which uses interpreting tarot cards instead of dice. Matthew can enjoy whatever games he wants. All of you can enjoy whatever games you want. I have not found a role-playing game that utilizes tarot cards to my liking. So it's a little too much of the either, if you're using tarot cards, you have to interpret the card. Or if you're using cards, it's simply a yes, no sort of oracle. There could possibly be a maybe or the and or but you succeed, but you fail, but you succeed, and, those kind of things. But I'm sure there's one out there. I'm sure there's one out there that's pretty good. It's just I'd never had an opportunity to take a peek. All righty. It is time to wrap on up. Yes. If you were watching live tonight, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, tip of the cap to you, because not only are you keeping each other company, you keep me company too. But this way, it's not just me talking to a camera without any sort of input, like just going out into the ether. But of course, I know a lot of people out there, they don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy life to watch any of these videos here on the channel. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up. And if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, please do. If you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. It'll not only let you know when the dispatch streams live, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. It'll also let you know when I upload other videos, such as my upcoming first look at Rebel Fury from GMT Games. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you will not find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. I will be back tomorrow. So everybody enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the wood. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and I certainly hope all of you out there get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.